Settle into the quiet comfort of this moment, where the world around you softens and fades, and let your mind drift to a place far removed from the present ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where the great city of Babylon rose from the fertile plains along the Euphrates River. Welcome to boring history for sleep, a gentle journey through time designed to wrap you in the soothing rhythm of history, to carry you through the dusty streets and sun-baked landscapes of a world long past. There's no urgency here, no need to hold tight to every detail. Instead, allow the words to flow over you like the warm, steady current of the river itself, inviting you to relax, to imagine, and perhaps to drift towards sleep. Picture yourself standing on the banks of the Euphrates, where the water glints under a heavy sun, its surface rippling with the faint breeze that carries the scent of damp earth and wild reeds. The air is warm, thick with the hum of life, distant voices calling in a language you don't quite understand. The creak of wooden carts, the low bleating of goats being herded through the city gates. Babylon sprawls before you, a marvel of human ambition, its mud brick walls rising like a mirage against the flat horizon. Towering ziggurats cast long shadows, their stepped terraces reaching toward the heavens, while the city's defensive walls, thick and imposing, promise protection but also remind you of the dangers beyond. This is a place where humanity first learned to live together in great numbers, where the seeds of law, writing, and urban life were sown, and where every day was shaped by the unyielding demands of survival. Tonight, we invite you to wander through this ancient world, not as a spectator watching from afar, but as someone immersed in its rhythms, the weight of labor, the pulse of ritual, the whispers of power and mystery. Our journey will unfold slowly, deliberately, across four distinct paths, each one a thread in the tapestry of Babylon's story. We'll begin by stepping into the life of an ordinary laborer, where the sun dictates your hours and the city's needs shape your every task. From there, we'll trace the strange and fateful reign of King Nabonidus, a ruler whose obsession with the divine led him far from his throne. Then, we'll ponder the enigma of the Tower of Babel, a structure that may or may not have stood, yet lingers in the imagination of countless generations. Finally, we'll slip into the opulent yet treacherous world of Nebuchadnezzar II's palace, where beauty and brutality walked hand in hand. There's no need to hold on tightly to these stories. Let them unfold at their own pace, each detail a soft brushstroke painting a picture of a world, both distant and strangely familiar. If you're awake, you might find yourself intrigued by the textures of daily life, the weight of ancient laws, or the quiet mysteries buried in the sand. If you're drifting towards sleep, let the steady cadence of the narrative carry you, like the gentle rocking of a boat on the Euphrates. This is a journey for your mind to wander through, to linger in, or to slip away from as sleep calls. Imagine yourself now standing at the edge of Babylon's bustling streets, the air warm against your skin, the faint scent of barley and smoke curling around you. The city is alive, its heartbeat steady and unyielding, driven by the labor of countless hands. You're not a king or a priest, not a scribe or a merchant, but an ordinary soul, one of the many who built this city brick by brick, day by day. The sun is rising, casting a golden glow across the rooftops, and the rhythm of life is calling you forward. For now, rest in this moment. Let the world of Babylon wait just a little longer. When you're ready, we'll step into the dust and heat of a laborer's day, where survival was a task that began with the dawn and ended only when the stars appeared. Imagine yourself waking in the pre-dawn hush of a small, mud brick house in ancient Babylon, the air heavy with the scent of baked clay and the faint, lingering smoke of last night's fire. The year is roughly 1750 BCE, under the reign of King Hammurabi, and you are a laborer, one of the countless souls who keep this great city humming. Your home is modest, its walls uneven, patched with straw and clay to keep out the wind. The floor is packed dirt, smoothed by years of footsteps, and your bed is a simple reed mat, perhaps softened with a thin layer of wool if you've been fortunate. A narrow slit of a window high on the wall lets in a faint grey light, barely enough to outline the contours of your small world. You rise, your joints stiff from the hard surface, and step into a day that will demand every ounce of your strength. The city of Babylon is already stirring outside, its rhythm as relentless as the Euphrates River that feeds it. You live in a crowded district far from the grandeur of the ziggurats and palaces. Warehouses are pressed tightly together, their flat roofs forming a patchwork of terraces where families sleep on sweltering nights. The streets are narrow, unpaved, and slick with the detritus of urban life animal dung, spilled grain, or the contents of a chamber pot emptied in haste. The air carries a constant blend of odors, the sharp tang of wet clay, the sourness of waste, the faint sweetness of drying dates. You've learned to breathe shallowly, to step carefully, as you make your way through the labyrinth of alleys toward the day's first task. Water is your first concern, as it is every morning. There are no pipes, no faucets in this world. You heft a heavy clay jug onto your shoulder and walk to a communal well or a nearby canal. Fed by the Euphrates, the water is murky, flecked with silt and tiny bits of debris, and you must strain it through a coarse cloth before it's fit for drinking or cooking. The jug is unwieldy, its weight pressing into your shoulder as you trudge back home, the clay cooled against your skin but growing heavier with each step. This task, simple as it sounds, is a reminder of the effort woven into every aspect of life here. You'll repeat it at least once more before the day ends. Perhaps twice if the heat is fierce and your family's needs are great. Breakfast, if you have it, is sparse. A flat bread made from barley or emmer wheat, dense and gritty, is your staple. If you're lucky, you might spread it with a smear of date paste, sweet and sticky, or drizzle it with a few drops of sesame oil. You chew slowly, the bread tough against your teeth, washing it down with a sip of weak beer. This beer is not the crisp brew of modern times, but a thick, slightly sour liquid, fermented from barley, and sipped through a reed straw to avoid the sediment that settles at the bottom. It's nourishing, safer than untreated water, and a constant in the diet of rich and poor alike. You eat standing or squatting by a low wooden table, while others in your household, perhaps a spouse, children, or an aging parent, prepare for their own tasks. There's no time to linger, the city's demands are waiting. As a laborer, your work is likely tied to Babylon's endless cycle of construction and maintenance. The city is a marvel of mud brick architecture, its walls, temples, and canals requiring constant upkeep. You might be a brickmaker, one of the many who spend their days kneading clay with bare feet, mixing it with straw to give it strength, and pressing it into wooden molds to dry under the unrelenting sun. The clay is cool at first, squelching between your toes, but as the day wears on, the heat sears your back, and your skin becomes caked with dust and sweat. Each brick must be uniform, or it will crumble under the weight of a wall, and the overseer or scribe with a sharp eye watches closely, his stylus poised to note any flaws. The work is repetitive, the rhythm of your movements almost meditative, but the physical toll is undeniable. Your hands blister, your shoulders ache, and the sun offers no mercy. Alternatively, you might be a canal worker, tasked with maintaining the intricate network of waterways that sustain Babylon's fields and households. The canals, fed by the Euphrates, are the city's lifeblood, but they clog with silt and debris, requiring constant dredging. You wade into the muddy water, the cold shock of it biting your shins, and wield a wooden spade to scoop out the muck. The air is thick with the smell of stagnant water and decaying reeds, and insects swarm around your face, their bites a constant irritation. The work is grueling, the mud heavy and resistant, and the overseer's presence is a constant reminder that slacking could mean a fine or a public reprimand. You move in time with your fellow workers, your bodies bent in a shared struggle, the rhythm of your labor echoing the pulse of the city itself. The laws that govern your life are as unyielding as the sun above. Hammurabi's code, inscribed on a towering basalt stele, looms over the city, its cuneiform script a testament to the king's authority. The code promises justice, but to you it feels like a web of obligations and punishments. If you fail to repay a debt, you could lose your freedom, becoming a wardom slave to your creditor until the debt is cleared. The code is precise. If you cause injury to another, the punishment might mirror the crime an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Women face their own burdens. Your wife, if you have one, could be seized as collateral for a loan or punished for failing to uphold her duties. Even minor infractions, like neglecting a canal or damaging a neighbor's property, could lead to fines you can't afford or public humiliation in the city square. The scribes, with their clay tablets and sharp styluses, are the enforcers of this order. their records inescapable. The bureaucracy of Babylon is another weight on your shoulders. Every transaction, every labor is recorded. Scribes are everywhere. Their tablets filled with cuneiform notations of grain deliveries, taxes, and debts. If you work on a public project, your output is tallied daily: how many bricks you molded, how much silt you cleared. Falling short could mean docked rations or a mark against your name. Taxes are relentless, paid in grain, silver, or labor, and the temple and palace take their share before you see a single shekel. You've learned to navigate this system as best you can, offering small bribes of dates or beer to a scribe to overlook a minor error. But the risk is always there. One misstep, one unpaid debt, and your life could unravel. Food beyond breakfast is a constant concern. Lunch, if you have it, might be more bread, perhaps paired with a handful of lentils or a few dried fish from the river. Fresh vegetables, onions, leeks, or cucumbers are a luxury, often reserved for the wealthy. Meat is even rarer. A bit of goat or mutton might appear on a festival day, but most days, your diet is monotonous, built around barley and dates. Hunger is a familiar companion. Not starvation, but a dull ache that reminds you of the precariousness of your existence. The fields outside the city produce enough to feed Babylon, but the surplus goes to the temples, the palace, and the merchants. You get what's left, and it's rarely enough to feel truly full. Clothing is simple, functional, and unchanging. You wear a knee-length tunic of coarse wool or linen, its fibers rough against your skin. The fabric is undyed, a muted beige or brown, and it clings to your body in the heat. Sandals, if you have them, are made of leather or woven reeds, but many laborers go barefoot, their soles hardened by years of walking on dirt and stone. Washing your clothes is a chore, done in the canal with a lump of natron and natural salt used as soap that leaves the fabric clean but stiff. Your appearance matters little. What matters is your labor, your output, your ability to keep the city running. The heat is a constant presence, a force that shapes every moment. By midday, the sun is a white-hot weight, pressing down on you as you work. You might pause briefly, seeking shade under a palm tree or a makeshift awning, sipping from a clay cup of water you've carried from home. The air shimmers with heat, and the city seems to slow, its inhabitants moving with a deliberate lethargy to conserve energy. Dust clings to everything: your skin, your clothes, your hair, and no amount of washing ever fully removes it. The rhythm of your life is tied to this cycle of heat and labor, a relentless pattern that offers little room for rest. Yet, there are moments of reprieve, fleeting though they are. You might share a joke with a fellow worker, the laughter a brief release from the day's weight. Or you might pause to watch a procession, a priest in white robes leading a bull to the temple, its horns adorned with ribbons, its lowing a deep, resonant sound that carries over the city. These moments remind you of Babylon's grandeur, its place as the heart of the world. Even if your own role is small, you are part of something vast, something enduring, and that thought, however faint, carries you through the day. As the afternoon wears on, your body grows heavy, your muscles aching from hours of toil. The overseer calls a halt, and you gather your tools: a spade, a basket, a mold, and begin the slow walk home. The streets are crowded now, with merchants hawking their wares, children darting underfoot, and the ever-present scribes recording the city's pulse. You pass a tavern, its interior dim and inviting, where workers like you gather to sip beer and trade stories. But you have no silver to spare, so you keep walking, the weight of the day settling into your bones. Back home, you eat a simple dinner: more barley bread, perhaps a thin stew of lentils and herbs. Your family gathers around the low table, the room lit by a single oil lamp, its flame casting flickering shadows on the walls. Conversation is quiet, practical: who will fetch water tomorrow, whether the roof needs patching before the next rain. You listen to the sounds of the city winding down, the distant call of a night watchman, the soft bleating of goats, the murmur of neighbors on their rooftops. The air is cooler now, but the heat lingers in the walls, in your skin, in the very rhythm of your life. As you lie down on your reed mat, the stars visible through the narrow window, you feel the weight of the day lift, if only slightly. Sleep comes slowly, your mind drifting over the tasks that await tomorrow: the same clay, the same canals, the same unyielding sun. This is the rhythm of your life in Babylon, a cycle of labor and survival, unbroken and unchanging. And yet, there is a strange comfort in its predictability in knowing that your hands, however small, are shaping the city that will stand long after you are gone. As the stars fade into the pre-dawn sky above Babylon, you stir once more on your reed mat, the coolness of the night giving way to the first hints of warmth that signal another day of labor. The city, sprawling along the Euphrates, never truly sleeps, and you, a laborer in this ancient metropolis around 1750 BCE, are woven into its ceaseless rhythm. Your small mud brick home, its walls still holding the heat of yesterday, offers little comfort as you rise, your body already anticipating the weight of the tasks ahead. The air is thick with the familiar sense of damp clay, lingering smoke, and the faint, sour tang of the streets outside. This is your world, unyielding and repetitive, where survival is a daily negotiation with the city's demands. You step outside, the narrow streets of your district already coming alive with the soft shuffle of footsteps and the low murmur of voices. The houses around you, pressed close together, form a maze of mud brick walls. Their flat roofs a shared space where families gather in the cooler hours. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, packed dirt mixed with refused bits of broken pottery, scattered straw, the occasional smear of animal dung. The air carries a blend of odors, the mineral scent of wet earth from the nearby canals, the faint sweetness of drying dates, and the ever-present mustiness of a city where thousands live in close quarters. You move carefully, your bare feet or reed sandals navigating the slick patches, your eyes adjusting to the dim light of dawn. Your first task, as always, is water. The Euphrates is Babylon's lifeblood, but it's not a simple matter of dipping a jug into the river. You walk to a communal well, its stone rim worn smooth by countless hands, or to a canal where the water flows sluggishly, clouded with silt. The clay jug you carry is heavy, its rough surface pressing into your shoulder as you fill it, the water sloshing softly. You pause to strain it through a coarse cloth, removing the worst of the sediment, but the water remains murky, tasting faintly of earth. The walk back is slow, the jug's weight a constant reminder of the effort required for even the most basic necessities. You'll make this trip again later, perhaps carrying 2 jugs if your household's needs are great, your arms and back protesting with each step. Back home, you prepare for the day with a simple meal. A flatbread of barley or emmer wheat, dense and chewy, forms the core of your diet. If you're fortunate, you might have a small bowl of date paste, its sweetness a rare treat, or a drizzle of sesame oil to soften the bread's grit. You sip a cup of weak beer, thick and slightly sour, drawn through a reed straw to avoid the sediment that settles at the bottom. This beer, brewed from barley and flavored with herbs, is safer than untreated water and as much a staple as bread. You eat quickly, squatting by a low table while others in your household espouse, children, or an elderly relative move about their own tasks. The room is small, its walls unadorned save for a niche where a clay figurine of a household god stands, a silent guardian you honor with a nod before leaving. Your work today, like most days, is tied to Babylon's endless need for maintenance and growth. The city is a marvel of mud brick and ambition, its temples, walls, and canals requiring constant labor to withstand the elements. If you're a brickmaker, you head to the clay pits just outside the city, where the earth is soft and pliable. You kneel, your feet sinking into the cool, slick clay, and begin the slow process of mixing it with straw, kneading it with your hands and feet until it's the right consistency. The work is rhythmic, almost hypnotic, but the sun climbs higher, and soon your skin is coated with dust, your sweat mingling with the clay. You press the mixture into wooden molds, smoothing each brick with care, knowing that a flawed one could weaken a wall. The overseer, a scribe with a clay tablet, watches from a distance, his stylus ready to record your output. A single mistake, a crack, an uneven edge could mean a reprimand or a cut in your rations. If your work is with the canals, you join a group of laborers wading into the muddy waterways that crisscross the city and its surrounding fields. The canals are vital, carrying water to irrigate crops and supply households, but they clog with silt, reeds, and debris. You carry a wooden spade, its handle worn smooth, and begin scooping out the muck. The water cold against your legs. The air is heavy with the smell of stagnant water, and decaying plants and insects buzz around you. Their bites a constant irritation. Your fellow workers move in silence, their faces set in concentration. The only sounds the soft splash of water and the occasional grunt of effort. The overseer stands on the bank, his tablet in hand, noting how much you clear. Falling behind could mean a fine, a public shaming, or even a lashing. For the canals are the city's lifeline, and no delay is tolerated. The laws of Babylon, etched into Hammurabi's code, cast a long shadow over your life. The code, inscribed on a basalt stele that towers over the city square, is meant to ensure justice. But to you, it feels like a labyrinth of rules and consequences. If you borrow grain or silver and fail to repay, you could be bound as a warden, a slave, to your creditor, your freedom stripped until the debt is cleared. The code is exacting. Injure another man, and you might lose an eye or a tooth in kind. Your wife, if you have one, faces her own risks. She could be seized to settle a debt or punished for failing to meet societal expectations. Even small errors, like neglecting a canal or damaging a neighbor's field, could lead to fines you can't pay or public humiliation. The scribes, with their sharp styluses and clay tablets, are the enforcers of this order. Their records a constant threat. Bureaucracy is another burden as relentless as the heat. Every aspect of your life is documented: how many bricks you make, how much grain you owe, how many days you've worked on a public project. Scribes are everywhere. Their tablets filled with cuneiform tallies of your labor, your taxes, your debts. If you work on a canal or a temple, your output is measured daily. And falling short could mean docked rations or a mark against your name. Taxes are paid in grain, silver, or labor, and the temple and palace take their share first. You've learned to navigate this system carefully, perhaps offering a handful of dates or a jug of beer to a scribe to overlook a minor error. But the risk is ever present. One misstep, and your life could spiral into debt or servitude. Your midday meal, if you have one, is much like breakfast: another piece of barley bread, perhaps with a handful of lentils or a few dried fish from the river. Fresh vegetables, onions, leeks, or garlic are rare, reserved for those with more means. Meat is almost unheard of, save for festival days when a bit of goat or mutton might be shared. Hunger is a constant companion, not a sharp pain, but a dull ache that reminds you of your place in the city's hierarchy. The fields outside Babylon produce enough to feed its people, but the surplus goes to the temples, the palace, and the merchants. You make do with what remains. Your meals a monotonous cycle of barley, dates, and beer. Your clothing is simple, designed for function rather than comfort. A knee-length tunic of coarse wool or linen hangs loosely on your frame, its fibers rough against your skin. The fabric is undyed, a muted beige or grey, and it clings to you in the heat, heavy with sweat and dust. Sandals, if you have them, are woven from reeds or leather, but many laborers go barefoot, their soles calloused from years of walking on dirt and stone. Washing your clothes is a chore, done in the canal with a lump of natron that leaves the fabric clean but stiff. Your appearance is of little concern. What matters is your ability to work, to contribute to the city's endless needs. The heat is a force unto itself, shaping every moment of your day. By midday, the sun is a blinding weight, pressing down on you as you toil. You might pause briefly, seeking shade under a palm frond or a cloth awning, sipping from a clay cup of water you've carried from home. The air shimmers and the city slows, its inhabitants moving with a deliberate pace to conserve energy. Dust is everywhere on your skin, in your hair, woven into the fabric of your tunic. No amount of washing fully removes it, and you've grown accustomed to its gritty presence. A constant reminder of the earth that sustains and burdens you. Yet, there are moments of connection, however brief. You might exchange a quiet word with a fellow worker, a shared complaint about the heat, or a murmured hope for a good harvest. These moments are small but vital, a reminder that you're not alone in this struggle. You might pause to watch a temple procession pass by a priest in white robes, leading a garlanded bull, its low bellow echoing through the streets. The sight stirs something in you, a faint pride in being part of Babylon, the greatest city in the world, even if your role is humble. These glimpses of the city's grandeur break the monotony, offering a fleeting sense of purpose. As the day draws to a close, your body is heavy with exhaustion, your muscles aching from hours of labor. The overseer signals the end of work, and you gather your tools: a spade, a basket, a mold, and begin the slow walk home. The streets are crowded now, filled with the sounds of merchants calling out, children playing, and the rhythmic tapping of scribes at their tablets. You pass a tavern, its interior dim and cool, where workers gather to sip beer and share stories. You have no silver to spare, so you keep walking, the weight of the day settling deeper into your bones. At home, you eat a simple dinner: more barley bread, perhaps a thin stew of lentils and herbs, shared with your family around a low table. The room is lit by a single oil lamp, its flame casting soft shadows on the mud brick walls. Conversation is quiet, practical: who will fetch water tomorrow, whether the roof needs patching. Outside, the city winds down, the sounds of the day giving way to the calls of night watchmen and the distant bleating of goats. You lie down on your reed mat, the stars visible through the narrow window, and feel the day's weight lift, if only slightly. Sleep comes slowly, your mind drifting to tomorrow's tasks: the same clay, the same canals, the same unyielding sun. This is the rhythm of your life in Babylon, a cycle of labor and endurance, steady and unchanging, yet strangely comforting in its predictability. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over the mud brick sprawl of Babylon, the city settles into the quiet rhythm of evening. The laborers, whose lives we followed through the dusty streets and muddy canals, have returned to their homes, their bodies weary from the day's toil. But now, let your mind drift upward, away from the crowded districts of the common folk, to the elevated world of kings and gods. Imagine yourself standing in the shadow of the great ziggurat, its stepped terraces rising like a stairway to the heavens, the air thick with the scent of incense and the distant hum of priestly chants. This is the world of Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon, whose reign marked the twilight of an empire. Tonight, we trace his story, a tale of ambition, faith, and exile, woven into the fabric of a city that stood at the heart of the ancient world. It is the 6th century BCE, around 556 BCE, and Babylon is a city of splendor and complexity. Its walls and temples are testament to centuries of power. But the empire is not what it once was. The days of Hammurabi's iron rule and Nebuchadnezzar II's grand conquests are fading memories, and the horizon holds whispers of a new power, Persia rising in the east. Into this delicate moment steps Nabonidus, a man whose name would be etched into history not for triumphs in battle, but for a strange and singular obsession with the divine. As you settle into this story, picture yourself not as a laborer now, but as a silent observer in the royal court, watching a king whose choices would unravel an empire. Nabonidus was not born to the throne, nor was he a direct heir to the Babylonian crown. His origins are modest by royal standards, a fact that sets him apart in a city where lineage and divine favor are everything. He was likely a nobleman, perhaps a military officer or a high-ranking official under Nebuchadnezzar II, whose reign had left Babylon glittering with wealth and power. When Nabonidus ascended to the throne, possibly through a cool political maneuvering after the death of Nebuchadnezzar's successors, he was an outsider in a court steeped in tradition. Imagine the palace halls, their walls adorned with glazed tiles depicting lions and mythical beasts, the air heavy with the scent of myrrh and the soft rustle of linen robes. The courtiers, priests and scribes watch him closely, their whispers a constant undercurrent, questioning his legitimacy. From the outset, Nabonidus' reign is marked by a deep devotion to the moon god, Sin, whose crescent symbol gleams in the night sky above Babylon. Sin is an ancient deity worshipped across Mesopotamia, but in Babylon, the god Marduk reigns supreme, his temple Esagila the spiritual heart of the city. Nabonidus' preference for Sin is not merely a personal piety, but a bold, almost defiant choice that sets him at odds with the powerful priesthood of Marduk. Picture him standing in the moonlit courtyard of his palace, gazing upward at the pale crescent, his thoughts consumed by visions of divine order. The priests of Marduk, robed in white and gold, observe from the shadows, their loyalty to their god and their influence threatened by this new king's fervor. As king, Nabonidus' duties are vast. He is not only a ruler but a mediator between the gods and the people, responsible for maintaining cosmic harmony through rituals, offerings, and the upkeep of temples. You can imagine him walking the processional way, a broad avenue lined with blue glazed tiles, leading a procession to the Temple of Sin in Haran, a city far to the north. The journey is long, the road dusty and lined with date palms, but Nabonidus is driven by a sense of purpose. He restores Sin's temple, Ehulhul, ordering new bricks to be molded and altars to be rebuilt. The work is meticulous, requiring laborers to haul clay and priests to sanctify each stone. But Nabonidus oversees it with a zeal that borders on obsession. To him, Sin's worship is not just a duty but a calling, a way to restore what he believes is a neglected divine truth. This focus on sin, however, comes at a cost. Back in Babylon, the priests of Marduk grow restless. Marduk is the patron of the city. His statue carried in grand processions during the New Year festival, a ritual that reaffirms Babylon's place as the center of the world. Nabonidus' neglect of this festival, some say he skipped it entirely. In some years sends ripples of unease through the city. Imagine the priests gathered in the cool, shadowed halls of Esagila, their voices low but urgent, discussing the king's absence. The people, too, begin to murmur, their lives tied to the rhythms of these rituals. Without the king's presence, the festival feels incomplete, the gods unappeased. You can almost hear the whispers in the marketplaces, carried on the warm breeze, questioning whether Nabonidus is fit to rule. Yet Nabonidus is not a man easily swayed. He is a scholar as much as a king, fascinated by the past, by the ancient inscriptions and artifacts that tell the story of Mesopotamia's gods and kings. He spends hours in the palace archives, poring over clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform, seeking wisdom from the reigns of those who came before. Picture him seated at a low table, a flickering oil lamp casting shadows on the walls, his fingers tracing the wedge-shaped marks that recount the deeds of Sargon or Hammurabi. He orders excavations at ancient sites, unearthing statues and steles buried by time, hoping to restore them to their rightful places in temples. To Nabonidus, these acts are not mere antiquarianism, but a way to connect with the divine, to anchor his reign in the eternal truths of the gods. This scholarly bent, however, further alienates him from his court. The nobles and officials, accustomed to a king who leads armies or presides over lavish feasts, find Nabonidus' priorities perplexing. He is not a warrior king like Nebuchadnezzar, whose conquests filled Babylon's coffers with tribute. Instead, he is introspective, more comfortable with priests and scribes than with generals. The military, too, grows restless, their loyalty tested by a king who seems more concerned with temples than with defending the empire's borders. You can imagine the tension in the palace, the air thick with unspoken grievances as courtiers exchange glances and plot in whispers. Nabonidus' most puzzling decision, however, is yet to come. Around 553 BCE, he makes a choice that baffles his court and his people. He leaves Babylon, entrusting the city to his son, Belshazzar, and journeys to the oasis of Tamar, deep in the Arabian desert. The reasons for this self-imposed exile are unclear, shrouded in the mists of history. Some say it was a religious pilgrimage, a quest to commune with sin in a place far from the politics of Babylon. Others whisper of political intrigue, suggesting Nabonidus fled to avoid a coup or to consolidate power in a distant stronghold. Imagine him riding out of the city on a donkey-drawn cart, his retinue small but loyal, the desert stretching endlessly before him. The air is dry, the sun relentless, and the oasis of Tamar with its palm groves and springs is a distant promise. In Tamar, Nabonidus establishes a court in exile, far from the grandeur of Babylon. The oasis is a stark contrast to the bustling city he left behind. Picture the quiet of the desert night, the air cool and crisp, the stars brighter than you've ever seen. Nabonidus builds a palace, modest by Babylonian standards, and dedicates himself to the worship of Sin. He orders the construction of new shrines, their altars adorned with crescent symbols, and spends his days in prayer and study. The people of Tamar, a mix of local tribes and traders, regard him with curiosity, their lives untouched by the politics of Babylon. To them, he is a strange, scholarly king, a man out of place in the vastness of the desert. Back in Babylon, Belshazzar rules as regent, but his authority is not absolute. The city continues its daily rhythms. Laborers mold bricks, scribes tally grain, priests offer sacrifices, but the absence of the king casts a shadow. The priests of Marduk seize the opportunity, strengthening their influence, while the nobles plot and scheme. The empire's borders, already strained by the rising power of Persia, grow vulnerable. You can imagine the unease in the city, the sense that something is amiss, like a melody played slightly out of tune. The people go about their lives, but the absence of their king lingers, a quiet question in the back of their minds. Nabonidus' exile lasts for years, a decade by some accounts, an extraordinary absence for a king. In Tamar, he seems to find a kind of peace, far from the demands of the throne. He writes inscriptions, many of which survive on clay and stone, describing his devotion to sin and his efforts to restore ancient temples. These texts, written in the precise wedges of cuneiform, reveal a man consumed by faith, convinced that his actions are guided by the divine. Picture him standing before a small altar, the moonlight bathing the desert in silver, his voice soft as he offers prayers to sin. The desert is vast, its silence profound, and for a moment, Nabonidus seems to belong to it. A king unburdened by the weight of empire. Yet, the world beyond Tamar does not stand still. The Persian king, Cyrus the Great, is building an empire of his own. His armies moving steadily westward. Babylon, once unassailable, is now a prize within reach. The priests of Marduk, resentful of Nabonidus' neglect, begin to see Cyrus as a potential liberator, a king who might restore their god to primacy. The nobles, too, grow restless, their loyalty to Nabonidus waning as the Persian threat grows. You can imagine the tension building, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Its first rumbles faint but unmistakable. Nabonidus' story is not yet complete, but as we pause here, picture him in Tamar, a solitary figure in the desert, his thoughts turned to the heavens. The city he left behind continues without him, its people bound by the same rhythms of labor and survival. You walked through in the streets of Babylon. The king's absence is a void, a space where power shifts and loyalties fray. As you drift through this moment, let the image linger, a king in exile, a city holding its breath, and a quiet, unyielding march of history moving forward. The desert night stretches endlessly over Tamar, its silence broken only by the soft rustle of palm fronds and the distant howl of a jackal. You are in the 6th century BCE, standing in the shadow of a modest palace where Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon, has made his home in exile. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of dust and myrrh, and the moon hangs low, its crescent glowing with a quiet intensity that seems to mirror the king's own devotion. Far from the bustling streets of Babylon, where laborers toil and scribes record the city's pulse, Nabonidus has carved out a space for reflection and worship, his life centered on the moon god Sin. Yet, the world he left behind does not pause, and the threads of his reign are unraveling, pulling Babylon toward its final days. Let your mind settle into this moment, drifting through the story of a king whose choices shaped an empire's end. Carried along by the gentle rhythm of history, Nabonidus' exile in Tamar, begun around 553 BCE, is a mystery that lingers in the records of ancient Mesopotamia. Imagine him walking the oasis paths, his linen robes brushing against the sandy earth, his eyes often lifted to the night sky where sun's light casts long shadows. The oasis is a world apart from Babylon's crowded alleys and towering ziggurats. Here, the air is dry, the horizon vast, and the pace of life slower, dictated by the cycles of trade and the availability of water. Nabonidus' palace, though grand by Tamar's standards, is a far cry from the opulence of Babylon. Its walls are mud brick, its rooms sparsely furnished with woven mats and low wooden tables. A small shrine to Sin stands at its heart, its altar adorned with crescent-shaped offerings where the king spends hours in prayer, his voice a soft murmur blending with the desert's quiet. Why did Nabonidus choose this exile? The clay tablets and inscriptions he left behind offer only hints, their cuneiform script speaking of divine will and sacred duties. Some scholars suggest he sought to strengthen Babylon's control over the lucrative trade routes that passed through Tamar, a key stop for caravans carrying frankincense and myrrh. Others believe his departure was a religious retreat, a quest to commune with Sin away from the political intrigues of the Babylonian court. Still others whisper of conflict or rift with the priests of Marduk or a noble faction that threatened his rule. Picture him standing before his council in Babylon before his departure, his voice steady but resolute, announcing his decision to leave Belshazzar, his son, as regent. The courtiers, their faces hidden behind polite masks, nod in agreement, but their eyes betray doubt, perhaps even relief at the king's retreat. In Babylon, Belshazzar takes up the mantle of rule, but his authority is fragile. He is young, perhaps in his 20s, and lacks his father's scholarly intensity or the commanding presence of past kings. Like Nebuchadnezzar II, imagine the palace halls, their glazed tiles gleaming under torchlight, as Belshazzar presides over feasts and rituals, trying to fill the void left by his father. The priests of Marduk, powerful and influential, watch him closely, their loyalty to the crown tempered by their devotion to their god. The New Year festival, the Akitu, is the heart of Babylonian tradition, a time when the king reenacts Marduk's victory over chaos, reaffirming the city's divine favor. But with Nabonidus absent, Belshazzar's performance of these rites feels hollow to some, a shadow of the grandeur expected. The people, gathered in the streets, watch the processions with a mix of awe and unease. Sensing the cracks in their city's foundation, Nabonidus in Tama seems almost unaware of the growing unrest. His inscriptions describe his efforts to restore temples, not just in Tama, but across the empire, from Haran in the north to in the south. He is a king consumed by the past, by the need to honor the gods through acts of preservation. Picture him overseeing workers as they rebuild a shrine, their hands shaping mud bricks under the desert sun, while Nabonidus inspects each stone, ensuring it aligns with ancient specifications. He writes of finding ancient foundation deposits, clay tablets buried beneath temples, inscribed with the names of long-dead kings. To him, these discoveries are messages from the divine, proof that his mission to honor sin is blessed. The workers, sweating under his gaze, may not share his fervor, but they follow his orders. Their labor a quiet echo of the toil you witnessed in Babylon's canals and clay pits. Yet, Nabonidus' devotion to sin deepens the divide with Babylon's elite, the priests of Marduk, whose temple Esagila is the spiritual and economic heart of the city. See his actions as a direct challenge. Marduk is Babylon's patron, his cult supported by vast estates and offerings from across the empire. Nabonidus' elevation of sin, declaring him the supreme god, in some inscriptions feels like a betrayal. Imagine the priests gathered in Esagila's shadowed halls, their robes rustling as they debate the king's absence. They speak of omens, of stars misaligned, of sacrifices that fail to yield clear signs. Their influence is immense, their wealth rivaling the palaces, and they begin to sow seeds of dissent, whispering to nobles and merchants that Nabonidus has abandoned his people for a distant god. The nobles, too, grow restless. Babylon's court is a web of alliances and rivalries, where loyalty is a currency carefully spent. Nabonidus' absence leaves a vacuum, and Belshazzar, though capable, lacks the charisma to hold the court together. Picture a banquet in the palace, the air heavy with the scent of roasted lamb and spiced wine. As nobles clad in embroidered tunics exchange guarded words, they speak of the growing power of Persia, of Cyrus the Great, whose armies are conquering lands to the east. Babylon's defenses, once formidable, are weakened by years of neglect, and the nobles fear that Belshazzar cannot protect the empire. Some begin to look to Cyrus as a savior, a king who might restore stability and their own influence. In Tama, Nabonidus seems insulated from these currents, but he is not entirely unaware. His inscriptions mention his son, Belshazzar, with pride, suggesting trust in his regency. Yet, there are hints of strained letters carried by couriers across the desert, urging Belshazzar to maintain the rituals of Marduk, perhaps an acknowledgement of the unrest in Babylon. Nabonidus' time in Tama is not idle. He strengthens the oasis as a regional hub, building alliances with local tribes and securing trade routes. Imagine him meeting with Bedouin leaders, their faces weathered by the desert, as they share bread and dates under a canopy of stars. These alliances are practical, but they also reflect Nabonidus' vision of a broader empire, one united not just by conquest but by shared devotion to the gods. The years pass and Nabonidus remains in Tama, his exile stretching to nearly a decade. The oasis becomes a second home, its rhythms familiar to him. He walks the palm groves at dawn, the air cool and fragrant, and prays at some shrine as the moon sets. His inscriptions grow more introspective, speaking of dreams and divine visions, of a world ordered by sun's light. Yet, the world beyond Taimur is changing. Cyrus's empire grows, swallowing Media, Lydia, and smaller kingdoms, its borders creeping closer to Babylon. The Persian king is a master of strategy, blending conquest with diplomacy, and his reputation reaches even the oasis. Traders bring tales of his victories, their voices low as they speak of cities that fell without a fight, their rulers won over by promises of autonomy. In Babylon, the mood darkens. Belshazzar, under pressure to maintain order, increases taxes and conscription, straining the city's resources. The laborers whose lives you followed feel the burden most acutely. Their rations cut as grain is diverted to the army. The canals clog with silt, the walls crumble in places, and the people whisper of omens a comet in the sky, a malformed calf born in the temple precincts. The priests of Marduk seize on these signs, proclaiming that the gods are angry, that Nabonidus' neglect has brought divine displeasure. Imagine a marketplace, its stalls crowded with baskets of barley and figs, where merchants and laborers alike speak in hushed tones of the king's absence, their words tinged with fear. Nabonidus, perhaps sensing the growing danger, begins to prepare for his return. Around 543 BCE, after years in Taimur, he sets out for Babylon, his retinue winding through the desert, their carts laden with offerings for Sun's temples. The journey is long, the road arduous, and the king is no longer young. Picture him, his hair graying, his face lined by the desert sun, riding at the head of his caravan. He carries with him inscriptions and artifacts, tokens of his devotion, but also a renewed determination to secure his legacy. Yet, Babylon is not the city he left. The priests of Marduk have grown bolder, the nobles more divided, and the shadow of Persia looms larger than ever. When Nabonidus re-enters Babylon, the city greets him with a mix of relief and suspicion. Imagine the Ishtar Gate, its blue-glazed tiles gleaming as the king passes through, his chariot drawn by mules, his guards clad in leather armor. The people line the streets, their faces a mixture of curiosity and wariness. The priests of Marduk, standing on the steps of a Sagila, offer formal welcomes, but their eyes are cold. Nabonidus resumes his duties, leading rituals and ordering repairs to the city's walls. But the damage is done. His long absence has eroded his authority, and the empire is on the brink of collapse. The final act of Nabonidus' reign comes swiftly. In 539 BCE, Cyrus's armies march on Babylon. The city, once impregnable, is unprepared. Belshazzar, still regent, attempts to rally the defenses, but the nobles and priests, disillusioned with Nabonidus, offer little support. Some accounts, preserved in later Greek texts, speak of a great feast hosted by Belshazzar as the Persians approach, a scene of decadence amid impending doom. Picture the palace hall, its tables laden with bread, wine, and roasted meat, as Belshazzar raises a goblet, perhaps in defiance, perhaps in denial. The famous writing on the wall, a story later woven into biblical tradition, may reflect this moment a warning of divine judgment, though its historical truth is uncertain. Cyrus enters Babylon with little resistance, welcomed by many as a liberator. Nabonidus, according to some accounts, flees but is captured. Others say he surrenders willingly, spared by Cyrus and allowed to live out his days in exile. The details are murky, lost to the sands of time. But what is clear is that Babylon falls without a prolonged siege, its empire absorbed into Persia's vast dominion. Imagine the city in the aftermath, its streets quieter now, its temples still standing but under new rule. The priests of Marduk, quick to adapt, pledge loyalty to Cyrus, who honors their god, ensuring their influence endures. Nabonidus' story fades here, his fate a footnote in the annals of history. He was a king driven by faith, a man who sought to align his reign with the divine but lost his empire in the process. As you linger in this moment, picture him one last time, perhaps in a distant province, gazing at the moon, its light a constant in a world that has changed beyond recognition. The rhythm of Babylon continues, its people adapting to new rulers, new guards, new realities. Let this image carry you forward, a gentle bridge to the mysteries and wonders that await in the next chapter of our journey. As the quiet of evening settles over the ancient city of Babylon, the stars emerge one by one, their light piercing the velvet sky above the Euphrates. The hustle of laborers and the intrigues of kings like Nabonidus fade into the background, and your mind drifts to a different kind of story, one woven from myth, memory, and the faint traces of history buried in the earth. Imagine yourself standing on the banks of the river, the air cool and heavy with the scent of damp reeds and distant incense. Before you rises a great structure, its silhouette vast and stepped, climbing toward the heavens like a mountain crafted by human hands. This is the world of the ziggurat, and perhaps the inspiration for the fabled Tower of Babel, a story that has echoed through time, its meaning as elusive as the winds that sweep the Mesopotamian plains. Let this tale unfold slowly, its details a gentle current to carry you through the mysteries of ancient Babylon, inviting you to linger or drift as you please. The story of the Tower of Babel, as told in the biblical book of Genesis, is one of ambition and consequence. It speaks of a people united by a single language, building a tower to reach the heavens, only to be scattered by a divine act that fractured their speech into countless tongues. But here, in the dust and clay of Babylon, we seek the roots of this tale not in myth alone, but in the tangible remnants of a civilization that stretched its hands toward the divine. The year is roughly the 6th century BCE, a time when Babylon's ziggurats stood as symbols of its power and piety, their terraces gleaming under the sun. As you imagine yourself in this ancient city, picture the Etemenenki, the great ziggurat dedicated to Marduk, Babylon's patron god. Its name means house of the foundation of heaven and earth, and it is here that we begin our exploration, wondering if this towering structure gave rise to the legend of Babel. The Etemenenki was not a tower in the modern sense, with sleek lines and a pointed spire. Instead, it was a stepped pyramid, its base broad and square, each level smaller than the one below, rising in a series of terraces to a shrine at its summit. Picture it standing in the heart of Babylon near the Esagila, the temple of Marduk, its mud brick core clad in baked bricks that shimmered in the sunlight. The ziggurat was immense, its base perhaps 300 feet on each side, its height rivaling the tallest structures of the ancient world. To you, standing at its base, it would seem to touch the sky, its uppermost shrine a distant speck against the clouds. The air around it carries the scent of burning cedar and myrrh, offerings from the priests who ascend its ramps to honor Marduk, their robes trailing in the dust. Building such a structure was a monumental task, one that required the labor of thousands over generations. Imagine the scene: laborers, much like those you followed in the city streets, hauling baskets of clay and straw, their hands stained with earth. They mix the mud with their feet, pressing it into molds to create bricks, each one dried under the unrelenting Mesopotamian sun. Scribes oversee the work, their clay tablets filled with tallies of bricks and workers, while priests offer blessings to ensure the gods' favor. The ziggurat is not just a building, but a sacred act, a bridge between the human and the divine. Its construction, likely begun in earlier centuries and expanded under kings like Nebuchadnezzar II, is a testament to Babylon's ambition, a city that sought to mirror the heavens on earth. The Etemenenki was not alone. Ziggurats dotted the landscape of Mesopotamia, from Ur in the south to Ashur in the north. Each was a center of worship, a place where priests performed rituals to maintain cosmic order. Picture the processions that wound their way up the ziggurats' ramps, the air filled with the chant of hymns and the clinking of bronze censers. The priests, clad in white linen, carry offerings of barley, dates and wine, their steps slow and deliberate. At the summit, a small shrine houses a statue of Marduk, his image adorned with gold and lapis lazuli, his presence believed to connect the city to the gods. The view from the top is breathtaking, Babylon sprawling below, its canals glinting like silver threads, its walls a bulwark against the world beyond. But how does this ziggurat, this Etemenenki, connect to the Tower of Babel? The biblical story, written centuries later, speaks of a tower built to make a name for its builders, a unified people who sought to reach the heavens. In Babylon, the name Babel itself is telling. The Akkadian word Babilu means gate of God, a fitting title for a city that saw itself as the center of the world. Yet, in Hebrew, the word can be linked to confusion, a play on the idea of scattered languages. Some scholars believe the story reflects a memory of Babylon's ziggurats, their scale and ambition so grand that they lingered in the cultural imagination, transformed into a cautionary tale about human hubris. The Etemenenki was not built in a single generation, nor by a single people speaking one language. Babylon was a cosmopolitan city, its streets filled with merchants from Elam, artisans from Assyria, and scribes from distant lands. Their languages, Akkadian, Aramaic, and others mingled in the marketplaces, creating a chorus of voices that was anything but unified. Yet, the idea of a single language fractured by divine will may echo a deeper truth. Mesopotamia was a land of shifting empires, where conquest and migration brought new tongues and customs. The ziggurat, a symbol of unity under the gods, stood in contrast to this diversity, its construction a collective effort that transcended linguistic divides. Imagine standing at the base of the Etemenenki, watching workers from different regions labor side by side. A man from us speaks in Sumerian, gesturing to a pile of bricks, while his companion, an Elamite, nods in understanding, their shared task bridging their differences. The air is thick with dust, the scent of baked clay mingling with the sweat of their labor. The ziggurat rises slowly, each brick a small act of devotion, each level a step closer to the divine. To the people of Babylon, this was not hubris but duty, a way to honor Marduk and ensure the city's prosperity. Yet, to outsiders, perhaps the Hebrew exiles who later lived in Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar II the ziggurat scale might have seemed an act of defiance, a challenge to the heavens themselves. The biblical story also speaks of a scattering, a dispersal of peoples across the earth. In Babylon's history, such dispersals were real, though not divine in origin. The city was a place of exile, where conquered peoples were brought to serve the empire. Imagine a group of captives, their wrists bound, trudging through the Ishtar Gate, their languages foreign to the Babylonian guards. They might have worked on the ziggurat, their labor coerced, their voices adding to the city's cacophony. The idea of a unified people scattered by divine will could reflect these movements, the mixing and remixing of cultures that defined Mesopotamia. The ziggurat, meant to unite, also bore witness to the empire's vast reach, its ability to draw in and reshape the lives of many. The Etemenenki's history is not without its mysteries. Ancient texts, including those of Herodotus, a Greek historian who visited Babylon in the 5th century BCE, described the ziggurat in vivid detail. He speaks of its 7 terraces, each a different color, though his account may blend fact with exaggeration. Imagine climbing the ramps, the baked bricks warm under your feet, each level painted in hues of blue, red, or gold. Though time has worn away the truth of such claims, Herodotus also mentions a shrine at the top, where a priestess might have resided, communing with Marduk in rituals shrouded in secrecy. The reality is less certain. Archaeological evidence suggests a simple shrine, not a permanent dwelling, but the image lingers, a whisper of the sacred. The ziggurat's fate is another enigma. By the time Alexander the Great conquered Babylon in 331 BCE, the Etemenenki was in decline, its bricks crumbling, its terraces eroding under the weight of time. Alexander ordered its restoration, but his death halted the work, and the ziggurat faded into ruin. Imagine the sight centuries later, a mound of broken bricks half buried in the sand, visited by travelers who marvel at its faded grandeur. Excavations in the 19th and 20th centuries uncovered its foundations, revealing a structure that matched the scale of the biblical tale, if not its divine drama. The bricks, stamped with the names of Nebuchadnezzar II and earlier kings, speak of a city that poured its wealth and faith into this monument. The story of Babel also raises questions about language itself. In Mesopotamia, writing was a sacred art, cuneiform, a script that captured the voices of gods and kings. Imagine a scribe in the shadow of the ziggurat, his stylus pressing wedges into soft clay, recording offerings or royal decrees. The script was complex, requiring years of training, and it preserved a multitude of languages: Sumerian, Akkadian, and later Aramaic. The idea of a single language, as in the biblical tale, may reflect a longing for unity in a world where communication was a constant challenge. Yet, cuneiform also united, allowing scribes across cities to share knowledge, even as their spoken tongues differed. As you linger in this moment, picture the Etemenenki at dusk, its silhouette softening against the sky. The priests ascend its ramps, their chants a low hum, while below, the city continues its rhythm, merchants haggling, laborers resting, scribes tallying the day's work. The ziggurat is a bridge to the divine, but it is also a human creation, built by hands like those you followed in Babylon's streets. Its story, like the Tale of Babel, is one of ambition and limitation, of a people reaching upward while bound to the earth. Let this image carry you, a gentle invitation to explore the mysteries that remain, as we continue our journey through Babylon's past. As the twilight deepens over Babylon, the great ziggurat Etemenenki stands silhouetted against a sky streaked with hues of amber and indigo. The air is cooler now, carrying the faint scent of river water and the distant aroma of burning cedar. From temple offerings, the city hums softly, its daily rhythms winding down as laborers return home and priests prepare for evening rituals. You are here, in the 6th century BCE, a silent observer in this ancient world, your mind lingering on the towering structure before you, a monument that may have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, the tale of a people united in ambition only to be scattered by divine will, resonates across centuries. But here, in the dust and clay of Babylon, we seek the tangible roots of this legend. Let your thoughts drift through the layers of history, archaeology, and myth, carried gently by the steady cadence of this narrative, as we explore the mysteries surrounding the ziggurat and the cultural echoes it left behind. The Etemenenki, meaning house of the foundation of heaven and earth, was not merely a structure but a sacred endeavor, a testament to Babylon's devotion to Marduk, its patron god. Its stepped terraces, rising in a series of diminishing squares, were a marvel of engineering, built from countless mud bricks shaped by hands like those you followed through the city. Canals and clay pits. Imagine standing at its base, the baked brick facade warm under your touch, its surface etched with faint patterns worn by time. The ziggurat's scale is staggering, its base perhaps 300 feet square, its height approaching to 100 feet, a man-made mountain that dominated Babylon's skyline. The ramps leading to its summit wind upward in a gentle spiral, their slopes designed for priests to ascend with offerings, their steps echoing with the weight of ritual. The ziggurat was not a place for the common folk. Its terraces were reserved for the priesthood, who performed ceremonies to ensure the gods' favor. Picture a procession moving slowly up the ramps, the priests' white linen robes catching the fading light, their hands carrying clay vessels filled with barley, dates, or oil. The air is thick with the scent of incense, its smoke curling upward as they chant hymns to Marduk, their voices blending with the soft rustle of palm fronds in the breeze. At the summit, a small shrine houses a statue of Marduk, its surface adorned with gold and lapis lazuli, its eyes gleaming as if alive. The priests believe this statue is more than an image, it is a vessel for the goddess' presence, a focal point for the city's prayers. The connection between Etemenenki and the Tower of Babel lies not just in its physical form, but in its cultural significance. The biblical story, written centuries after Babylon's peak, speaks of a tower built to reach the heavens, a symbol of human ambition. In Babylon, ziggurats were indeed bridges to the divine, their height a literal and symbolic attempt to draw closer to the gods. Yet, they were not acts of defiance but of devotion, built to honor the cosmic order. Imagine the laborers who toiled on Etemenenki, their hands shaping bricks under the watchful eyes of scribes and overseers. They worked not for glory but for survival, their labor part of a collective effort to sustain the city's spiritual and economic life. The biblical tale, with its emphasis on hubris, may reflect a later perspective, perhaps from Hebrew exiles who saw Babylon's grandeur as a challenge to their own God. The story of Babel also speaks of a single language shattered into many, a scattering of peoples across the earth. In Babylon, language was both a unifier and a divider. The city was a melting pot, its streets filled with voices speaking Akkadian, Aramaic, Sumerian, and other tongues brought by traders, captives, and settlers. Picture a marketplace near the ziggurat, its stalls crowded with baskets of figs, barley, and woven reeds. A merchant from Elam barters with a Babylonian scribe, their words halting but understood through gestures and shared phrases. Nearby, a laborer from a distant village speaks in a dialect that draws curious glances, his accent marking him as an outsider. The ziggurat, rising above this chorus of voices, was a symbol of unity, its construction a shared task that transcended linguistic barriers. Yet, the idea of a single language fractured by divine will may have deeper roots. Mesopotamia was a land of cultural exchange where empires rose and fell, bringing new peoples and languages into contact. The ziggurat's construction required coordination among diverse groups, laborers from Europe, craftsmen from ashore, captives from conquered lands. Imagine a work site at the ziggurat's base where a foreman shouts instructions in Akkadian, only to be met with puzzled looks from workers who speak only Sumerian. Scribes bridge the gap, their cuneiform tablets recording orders in a script that could be read across languages. The biblical story may echo this reality, transforming the practical challenges of communication into a divine narrative of dispersal. Archaeology offers clues to the ziggurat's reality, grounding the myth in mud brick and mortar. Excavations in the 19th and 20th centuries uncovered the foundations of Etemenenki, revealing a structure that matched ancient descriptions. The bricks, stamped with the names of Nebuchadnezzar II and earlier kings, were laid with bitumen, a tar-like substance that sealed them against the river's moisture. Imagine the laborers spreading this sticky, pungent material, their hands blackened as they stacked bricks in precise rows. The ziggurat's core was mud brick, cheaper and easier to produce, while its outer layer was baked brick, fired in kilns to withstand the elements. The process was slow, each brick a small act of endurance, each layer a testament to Babylon's wealth. Ancient texts, like those of Herodotus, add color to the ziggurat's story, though their accuracy is debated. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, describes a tower with 7 terraces, each a different hue: white, black, red, blue, and so on. Picture climbing these terraces, the colors shifting under your feet, though archaeologists find little evidence of such vivid decoration. Herodotus also speaks of a shrine at the summit where a priestess might have lived, communing with Marduk in rituals veiled in mystery. More likely, the shrine was a simple chamber visited only for ceremonies, its walls bare save for offerings and sacred symbols. Yet, the image of a lone priestess, her prayers carried on the wind, adds a poetic layer to the ziggurat's story, blending fact with the allure of legend. The ziggurat's purpose was multifaceted. It was a religious center, a place for priests to offer sacrifices and read omens in the stars. Imagine a priest standing on the highest terrace, his eyes scanning the night sky, noting the movement of planets called wandering stars in Akkadian. The Babylonians were master astronomers, their observations recorded on clay tablets, predicting eclipses and seasonal changes. The ziggurat was also an economic hub, its storehouses filled with grain and textiles offered to Marduk. Scribes tallied these goods, their styluses scratching cuneiform into soft clay, ensuring the temple's wealth supported the city. Finally, the ziggurat was a symbol of power, its height proclaiming Babylon's dominance to all who approached. The biblical story of Babel, with its focus on a tower, may also reflect older Mesopotamian myths. The Enuma Elish, Babylon's creation epic, tells of Marduk defeating the chaos goddess Tiamat and building the world from her body. The ziggurat, as Marduk's house, was a physical echo of this myth, its terraces mirroring the ordered cosmos. Imagine a priest reciting the Enuma Elish during the New Year festival, his voice rising over the crowd as they gather below the ziggurat. The story binds the people to their god, their city, their king, even as their languages and origins differ. The biblical tale, with its emphasis on divine punishment, may have reinterpreted this unity as pride, a warning to later generations. The ziggurat's decline mirrors Babylon's own. By the time of Nabonidus, the Etemenenki was aging, its bricks eroding under rain and wind. Imagine walking its ramps in the 6th century BCE, noticing cracks in the facade, patches of crumbling mortar. Nabonidus, with his passion for restoration, may have ordered repairs, sending laborers to haul new bricks and priests to rededicate the shrine. But after Babylon's fall to Cyrus in 539 BCE, the ziggurat's fate was sealed. Alexander the Great, passing through in 331 BCE, found it in ruins, its terraces collapsed, its shrine abandoned. He planned to rebuild it, but his death left the project unfinished, and the ziggurat faded into the earth, a mound of rubble swallowed by the sands. Archaeologists later uncovered its remains, piecing together its story from scattered bricks and ancient texts. Imagine their excitement, brushing away centuries of dust to reveal a brick stamped with Nebuchadnezzar's name. Its cuneiform still sharp, these finds confirmed the ziggurat scale, its base as wide as a modern city block, its height a challenge to the flat Mesopotamian landscape. Yet, they also deepen the mystery. How much of the biblical tale is memory? How much metaphor? The ziggurat was not a tower to defy the gods, but a monument to serve them. Yet, its grandeur inspired stories that outlived its physical form. The story of Babel also touches on the power of language, a theme central to Babylon's identity. Cuneiform, with its wedge-shaped marks, was a tool of empire, preserving laws, myths, and records across generations. Imagine a scribal school near the ziggurat, young boys hunched over clay tablets, practicing their wedges under a teacher's stern gaze. The script was complex, requiring years to master, but it allowed Babylon to communicate with distant cities to record the will of kings and gods. The biblical idea of a single language may reflect a longing for such unity, a world where words needed no translation. In reality, Babylon's scribes were translators, bridging tongues to keep the empire running. As you linger in this moment, picture the Etemenenki at night, its terraces lit by torchlight. The priests chants a soft murmur against the silence. The city below is a tapestry of life's laborers sleeping on their mats. Merchants counting their silver, scribes sealing their tablets. The ziggurat stands as a beacon, its purpose both earthly and divine, its story woven into the myth of Babel. Let this image carry you, a gentle bridge to the final chapter of our journey, where we step into the opulent and perilous world of Nebuchadnezzar II's palace, a place where power and beauty danced in delicate balance. As the stars blanket the Babylonian sky, their faint light glimmers on the Euphrates, casting a silver sheen over the city's mud brick sprawl. The ziggurat Etemenenki, with its tales of divine ambition, fades into the night, and your mind drifts to a different realm, one of opulence, power, and hidden peril. Imagine yourself standing before the Ishtar Gate, its blue-glazed tiles adorned with golden lions and mythical beasts, their forms glowing softly under torchlight. Beyond this gate lies the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II, a place where wealth and authority intertwine with intrigue and danger. The air carries the scent of myrrh and roasted spices, mingling with the distant murmur of courtiers and the clink of bronze goblets. This is the heart of Babylon in the 6th century BCE, a world far removed from the laborers' dusty streets or the exiled dreams of Nabonidus. Let your thoughts settle into this lavish yet treacherous space, carried gently by the rhythm of history, as we explore the court life of one of Mesopotamia's greatest kings. It is the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, roughly 605 to 560 BCE, a time when Babylon stands at the zenith of its power. The empire stretches from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean, its coffers filled with tribute from conquered lands. Nebuchadnezzar, a warrior king whose name echoes through history, has transformed Babylon into a city of wonders, its walls and temples a testament to his ambition. His palace, a sprawling complex of courtyards, halls, and gardens, is the nerve center of this empire, a place where decisions are made that shape the lives of millions. Picture yourself stepping through the gate, your feet treading on polished stone, the air warm and heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine. The palace is not just a residence, but a stage where every gesture, every word carries weight. The palace is a labyrinth of beauty and function. Its walls are clad in glazed bricks, their surfaces painted with scenes of lions, palm trees, and winged deities, their colors vivid even in the dim light of oil lamps. The floors are paved with limestone or alabaster, cool underfoot, and the ceilings are supported by cedar beams imported from distant Lebanon, they would filling the air with a faint, resinous aroma. Imagine walking through a courtyard open to the sky, its center adorned with a fountain that trickles softly, the water catching the light of torches set in bronze sconces. Date palms and tamarisk trees line the edges, their leaves rustling in the evening breeze, offering a rare moment of tranquility in a place where power is always at play. At the heart of the palace is the throne room, a vast chamber where Nebuchadnezzar holds court. Picture it, a high ceiling painted with stars, walls lined with friezes of conquered kings offering tribute, and at the far end, a dais where the king sits on a throne of ebony and gold. His robe is embroidered with silver thread, its folds heavy with the weight of authority, and a diadem rests on his brow, its gems glinting in the lamplight. Courtiers, clad in linen tunics dyed in shades of crimson and blue, stand in careful ranks, their eyes lowered but alert. Scribes hover nearby, their styluses poised over clay tablets, ready to record the king's words. The air is thick with the scent of incense, its smoke curling upward, and the soft hum of whispered conversations fills the space, each word chosen with care. Life in the palace is a delicate dance where every step is calculated. The courtiers are a mix of nobles, priests, and foreign dignitaries, each vying for the king's favor. Imagine a nobleman, his beard oiled and curled, offering a gift of lapis lazuli from distant mountains, his voice smooth as he praises Nebuchadnezzar's conquests. Beside him stands a priest of Marduk, his white robe immaculate, his presence a reminder of the temple's power. Foreign envoys, their accents marking them as outsiders, bow low, their gifts of gold and spices a testament to Babylon's reach. The king listens, his expression unreadable, his decisions shaping alliances and wars. To be in his presence is to walk a tightrope where a misstep could mean disgrace or worse. The palace is also home to Nebuchadnezzar's family, though their lives are no less fraught. His queen, often identified as Amethyst in later traditions, is said to have inspired the Hanging Gardens, a marvel of greenery cascading from terraced platforms. Picture these gardens, their stone channels carrying water from the Euphrates, irrigating rows of tamarisk, date palms, and rare flowers. The air here is cooler, the scent of wet earth and blossoms a contrast to the dry heat of the city. Whether the gardens truly existed is debated. Ancient texts are vague, and archaeology has yet to confirm them, but the image is vivid. A queen walking among the trees, her robes trailing on the stone paths, finding solace in a space that echoes a distant homeland. The court is not just men. Eunuchs, their roles both administrative and ceremonial, move silently through the halls, their presence a reminder of the palace's complex hierarchy. Imagine one, his tunic plain but finely woven, carrying a tray of clay tablets to the king's scribes. His voice, when he speaks, is soft, his words chosen to avoid offense. Concubines, too, are part of this world, their lives cloaked in luxury but bound by the king's will. Picture a woman in a chamber adorned with silk hangings, her hair adorned with gold pins, her days spent weaving or playing the lyre, yet always aware of the precariousness of her position. These women, often daughters of allied kings or nobles, are both ornaments and pawns, their beauty a currency in the palace's power games. Astrology plays a central role in court life, guiding decisions from war to marriage. Imagine a royal astrologer, his robes embroidered with star patterns, standing on a palace rooftop, his eyes fixed on the night sky. He tracks the movements of planets, Jupiter for Marduk, Venus for Ishtar, recording their paths on clay tablets. His predictions, based on centuries of observation, influence the king's actions. If the stars warn of danger, a campaign might be delayed. If they promise prosperity, a festival is planned. The air up here is clear, the city's lights a faint glow below, and the astrologer's work is a quiet ritual, blending science and faith in a way that shapes the empire's fate. Yet, beneath the palace's grandeur lies a current of danger. Power struggles are constant, their stakes life and death. Nobles plot in shadowed corners, their whispers hidden behind polite smiles. Imagine a banquet in the great hall, the tables laden with roasted lamb, barley cakes, and bowls of spiced lentils. The king raises a goblet of wine, his laughter echoing, but the courtiers watch each other closely, their alliance is fragile. A misplaced word, a slight against a powerful priest, could lead to exile or execution. The king himself is not immune. Nebuchadnezzar's strength is legendary, but even he must navigate the ambitions of those around him, from his generals to his own kin. The palace's daily rhythm is relentless. Servants rise before dawn, sweeping courtyards and lighting braziers. Scribes work through the night, their tablets piling up with records of taxes, tribute, and royal decrees. Imagine a scribe, his fingers stained with clay, laboring by lamplight, his eyes strained from hours of writing. The palace kitchens are a hive of activity, their air thick with the smell of baking bread and roasting meat. Cooks, their tunics stained with oil, grind barley and chop leeks, preparing meals for hundreds. The king's table is lavish, but even the lowliest servant eats better than the laborers outside, their plates filled with scraps from the royal feast. Religion permeates the palace, its rituals a constant presence. Imagine a morning ceremony in a courtyard where priests offer incense to Marduk, their chants rising over the sound of a lyre. The king participates, his presence reinforcing his role as the god's chosen. Yet, these rituals are also political, a way to appease the powerful priesthood and maintain their support. The temple of Marduk, a sigilla, is just beyond the palace, its influence inescapable. Priests visit daily, their demands for offerings and land a subtle pressure on the king's wealth. The air is heavy with their authority, their robes are stark white against the palace's colors. The palace is also a place of learning, where scribes and scholars preserve Babylon's knowledge. Imagine a library room, its shelves lined with clay tablets, their surfaces covered in cuneiform. Here, scribes copy ancient text myths like the Enuma Elish mathematical tables or medical recipes. The air smells of dust and clay, the silence broken only by the scratch of styluses. Nebuchadnezzar, a patron of such work, might visit, his presence a rare honor. These tablets, fragile yet enduring, carry the empire's wisdom, a legacy that will outlast the palace's walls. As the day fades, the palace settles into a quieter rhythm. Courtiers retire to their chambers, their oil lamps casting soft shadows. The king, perhaps, walks the gardens, the sound of water soothing his mind. The air is cooler now, the stars bright above, and the palace feels almost peaceful, though its intrigues never truly sleep. This world, with its beauty and danger, is a stark contrast to the laborers' lives, yet it is built on their toil, their bricks, their sweat. As you linger in this moment, let the image of the palace, its colors, its scents, its whispers carry you forward, a gentle bridge to the final part of our journey. As the night deepens over Babylon, the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II glows softly under the flicker of oil lamps, their light casting long shadows across the glazed tiles and polished stone floors. The air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and myrrh, blending with the faint aroma of roasted barley from the kitchens below. The city beyond the palace walls settles into a quieter rhythm, its laborers resting, its scribes sealing their tablets for the night. But within the palace, life continues, a delicate dance of power, beauty, and intrigue that never fully pauses. Imagine yourself moving through its halls, your steps silent on the cool stone, as you pass courtiers in whispered conversation and servants gliding like shadows. This is the heart of Babylon in the 6th century BCE, under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, a king whose vision and ambition shaped an empire. Let your mind drift through this opulent yet perilous world, carried gently by the steady cadence of history. As we explore the final layers of court life and its hidden currents, the palace is a world unto itself, a microcosm of Babylon's grandeur and complexity. Its courtyards, lined with date palms and tamarisk trees, offer moments of tranquility, their fountains murmuring softly under the starlit sky. Picture yourself pausing by one such fountain, the water's gentle trickle a soothing contrast to the palace's constant hum of activity. The walls, adorned with friezes of lions and mythical creatures, gleam in shades of blue and gold, their colors vivid even in the dim light. Cedar beams, imported from the distant mountains of Lebanon, support the ceilings, their resinous scent mingling with the incense that burns in bronze censers. Every detail, from the polished alabaster floors to the woven tapestries hanging in the chambers, speaks of wealth and power, a testament to Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Life in the palace revolves around the king, whose presence is both a beacon and a weight. Nebuchadnezzar II, a warrior king who expanded Babylon's empire to its greatest extent, is a figure of immense authority. Imagine him seated in the throne room, a vast chamber with a ceiling painted to mimic the night sky, its stars crafted in lapis lazuli and gold. His throne, carved from ebony and inlaid with ivory, rests on a dais, elevating him above the courtiers who stand in careful ranks. His robe, heavy with silver embroidery, catches the light of oil lamps, and a diadem on his brow glints with precious stones. His face, stern yet composed, betrays little of his thoughts, but his gaze is sharp. assessing each noble, priest, and envoy who approaches. The air is thick with the scent of burning cedar, and the soft scratch of scribes' styluses on clay tablets punctuates the silence, recording every word for posterity. The courtiers who surround the king are a tapestry of ambition and loyalty, each navigating the palace's intricate hierarchy. Picture a nobleman, his beard meticulously curled, his tunic dyed a deep crimson, presenting a gift of amber beads from the far north. His voice is measured, his praise for the king effusive, but his eyes dart to his rivals, calculating their reactions. Beside him stands a priest of Marduk, his white robe a symbol of his temple's power, his words laced with subtle reminders of the god's favor. Foreign envoys, their accents marking them as visitors from Elam or Egypt, bow low, their gifts of silver and spices a sign of submission to Babylon's might. The throne room is a stage where every gesture is a performance, every word a potential risk or reward. The palace is not just a place of men. Women, too, play vital roles, though their lives are bound by the king's will. The queen, possibly Amethyst if later traditions are to be believed, moves through the palace with quiet grace, her presence a counterpoint to Nebuchadnezzar's authority. Imagine her in a private chamber, its walls hung with silk tapestries, her hair adorned with gold pins shaped like lotus flowers. She might walk in the fabled hanging gardens, if they existed, their terraced platforms lush with greenery, the air cool with the scent of wet earth and blooming roses. The gardens, irrigated by water channels from the Euphrates, are a marvel of engineering, their stone terraces supporting trees and vines that cascade like a living waterfall. Whether myth or reality, the image of the queen strolling these paths, her robes trailing on the stone, offers a moment of serenity in a world of constant maneuvering. Concubines, too, inhabit this world, their lives a blend of luxury and constraint. Picture a young woman, perhaps a daughter of a vassal king, seated in a chamber adorned with woven rugs and bronze mirrors. Her days are spent embroidering linen or playing a lyre, its strings producing a soft, mournful tune. Her beauty is a currency, her presence a gift to strengthen alliances. But her position is precarious, dependent on the king's favor. She moves through the palace with care, her eyes lowered but observant, aware of the whispers that could elevate or destroy her. Eunuchs, serving as administrators and guards, are a constant presence, their plain tunics a contrast to the courtier's finery. Imagine one gliding through the halls, his arms laden with scrolls, his voice soft as he delivers messages between chambers, his loyalty to the king unwavering. Astrology shapes the palace's rhythm, its predictions guiding everything from military campaigns to royal marriages. Picture an astrologer on a rooftop terrace, his robe embroidered with crescent moons, his eyes scanning the night sky. He tracks the paths of planets Jupiter for Marduk, Venus for Ishtar, recording their movements on clay tablets. His work is both science and ritual, blending observation with prayer. If a comet appears, he might warn of unrest. If the stars align favorably, he advises a festival. The king listens closely, his decisions swayed by these omens, for in Babylon, the heavens are a mirror of the earth's fate. The air up here is clear, the city's lights a faint glow below, and the astrologer's quiet focus is a reminder of the palace's dependence on the divine. Yet, beneath this grandeur lies a current of danger, a web of intrigue that binds the court. Power struggles are a constant undercurrent, their outcomes uncertain but always consequential. Imagine a banquet in a great hall, its tables laden with roasted goose, barley cakes, and bowls of spiced lentils, the air rich with the scent of wine and saffron. The king raises a goblet, his laughter echoing, but the courtiers watch each other closely, their smiles masking rivalries. A noble who speaks too boldly might find himself exiled to a distant province. A priest who oversteps risks losing his temple's favor. The king himself is not immune. Nebuchadnezzar's conquests have made enemies, and even his kin might harbor ambitions. The palace is a place where loyalty is tested daily, where a single misstep could unravel a lifetime of favor. The palace's daily life is a blend of routine and ritual. Servants rise before dawn, sweeping courtyards and lighting braziers, their movements swift but silent. Imagine a servant, his tunic stained with soot, tending a bronze brazier, the coals glowing red as they warm a chamber. The kitchens are a hive of activity, their air thick with the smell of baking bread and roasting meat. Cooks grind barley with stone querns, their hands dusted with flour, while others chop leeks and garlic, preparing meals for the court. The king's table is a display of wealth, with platters of fish from the Euphrates and fruits from distant orchards. But even the servants eat well, their plates filled with leftovers from the royal feast. Religion is woven into every aspect of palace life. Imagine a morning ritual in a courtyard where priests burn incense before a statue of Marduk, their chants blending with the soft notes of a flute. The king participates, his presence affirming his role as the god's chosen. But these rituals are also political, a way to maintain the priesthood's support. The temple of Marduk, a sigilla, is a short walk from the palace, its influence inescapable. Priests visit daily, their demands for offerings and land a subtle pressure on the king's treasury. The air carries their authority, their white robes a stark contrast to the courtiers' colorful tunics, their words a reminder of the god's watchful gaze. The palace is also a center of knowledge where scribes preserve Babylon's legacy. Picture a library chamber, its shelves lined with clay tablets, their surfaces etched with cuneiform. Scribes work by lamplight, copying myths, laws, and astronomical records. Their stylus is scratching softly. The Enuma Elish, Babylon's creation epic, is a favorite, its verses recounting Marduk's triumph over chaos. Nebuchadnezzar, a patron of such work, might visit, his presence a rare honor. The air smells of dust and clay, the silence broken only by the scribe's quiet murmurs. These tablets, fragile yet enduring, are the empire's memory, a record that will outlast the palace's walls. The palace's wealth is staggering, its storerooms filled with tribute from across the empire. Imagine a chamber packed with cedar chests, their lids inlaid with ivory, containing silver ingots, gold jewelry, and bolts of dyed linen. Scribes catalogue these treasures, their tablets listing tribute from Judah, Tyre, and beyond. The king's conquests, his campaigns against Egypt, his siege of Jerusalem have filled these coffers, but they also fuel the court's ambitions. A noble might petition for a share of this wealth, his words cloaked in flattery, while a general seeks funds for a new campaign. The king's decisions, recorded by scribes, ripple outward, affecting lives far beyond the palace. As night falls, the palace grows quieter, though never still. Courtiers retire to their chambers, their oil lamps casting soft shadows on the walls. Servants move through the halls, clearing tables and snuffing braziers. The king might walk the gardens, the sound of water soothing his mind, or confer with his advisors in a private chamber, their voices low as they discuss distant threats. The air is cooler now, the stars bright above, and the palace feels almost serene, though its intrigues linger like a faint echo. This world, with its beauty and danger, is built on the labor of those outside its walls, the brickmakers, the canal workers, the scribes whose lives you followed. As you drift through this moment, let the palace's opulence and peril carry you toward our final reflection, a gentle close to our journey through Babylon's past. As the final echoes of Nebuchadnezzar II's palace fade into the night, the city of Babylon settles into a stillness that feels almost tangible, a quiet woven from the murmurs of the Euphrates and the soft rustle of palm fronds under a starlit sky. The air carries the lingering scent of incense, its tendrils curling through the darkness, mingling with the faint earthiness of baked clay and the distant sweetness of ripening dates. You have wandered far tonight, through the dusty streets where laborers toiled under the unrelenting sun. Through the strange exile of Nabonidus, his life was one of endless toil. Yet it was also part of something vast, something enduring. His story is one of faith and folly, a reminder that even those who hold power are driven by dreams that can lead them astray. It was a monument to Babylon's ambition, a place where priests sought the gods' favor, where scribes recorded the stars' paths, where laborers' hands shaped a vision of eternity. The king, surrounded by courtiers, priests, and astrologers, ruled an empire built on conquest. Yet his court was a web of intrigue, where loyalty was a fleeting currency. Babylon is gone, its walls reduced to mounds of earth, its ziggurats buried by time. Yet its legacy endures in the laws we write, the cities we build, the stories we tell. If your eyelids grow heavy, let them close, knowing that the city's rhythm will carry you forward, into dreams or silence. If you're still awake, let the images linger the clay under a laborer's hands. The moonlit desert of Nabonidus' exile, the ziggurats' terraces, the palace's gilded halls. They are yours to hold, to release, to revisit as you wish. For now, rest in the comfort of the present, where the struggles of Babylon are a distant memory, and the night is yours to claim. Sleep well, carried by the gentle tide of history, until the morning light calls you back to your own world. The people of Babylon, from the laborer to the king, lived lives bound by their moment. Yet their efforts ripple forward, touching your world in ways they could not have imagined. The cuneiform tablets, unearthed by modern hands, speak of their dreams, their fears, their triumphs. The stars they watched still shine above you, a reminder that the rhythm of human life, with its struggles and joys, is a constant thread through time. The hanging gardens, real or imagined, offered a glimpse of solace, their greenery a contrast to the palace's tensions. The city's dust has long since scattered, its voice is silenced, but its memory lingers. A soft echo in the night. Picture yourself lying down, the world around you growing still, the air cool and calm. The Euphrates flows on in your mind, its current a lullaby, carrying you toward sleep. The laborers, the kings, the priests, the scribes, they are all part of a distant past, yet their lives touch yours in the shared act of living, of striving, of finding meaning in the everyday. Let their stories fade now, blending into the darkness as you drift into a rest as deep and peaceful as the Babylonian night. Picture the queen walking those terraces, the air cool with the scent of blossoms, or a scribe in a quiet chamber, his stylus tracing the empire's memory. This was a world of splendor, but also of fragility, where every decision carried the weight of an empire's fate. As you linger here, the palace's glow fading into the night, you might sense the delicate balance of power, the way it shapes and is shaped by those who wield it. Yet, it was also a reminder of human fragility, its bricks crumbling under time's weight, its story transformed into a legend of pride and dispersal. Imagine it now, its silhouette softened by dusk, its ramps quiet save for the footsteps of priests. The ziggurat was not a challenge to the divine, but a plea for connection, a testament to a people who looked upward while rooted in the earth. Its mystery lingers, a question mark in the sand, inviting you to ponder what stories endure and what truths they carry. In the desert of Tamar, far from Babylon's bustle, he sought a truth that felt eternal. Yet his absence left a city vulnerable, its fate sealed by the march of a new empire. His inscriptions, carved in stone and clay, speak of a man who believed he was chosen. Yet history remembers him as the last of his line, a king whose devotion could not save his crown. Picture him now, gazing at the moon from a distant oasis, the silence of the desert a stark contrast to the city he left behind. His story is a quiet caution, a whisper that even the mightiest are bound by the limits of their choices. Each brick he molded was a small act of creation, a contribution to a civilization that would echo through millennia. His world was harsh, its laws unyielding, its days long and unforgiving. But it was also a world of rhythm and purpose, where the act of living was itself a kind of triumph. As you picture him now, resting on his reed mat under a narrow window, the stars faint above, you might feel a quiet kinship, a recognition of the resilience that binds us across time, and his devotion to a moonlit god through the enigmatic shadow of the Etemenenki ziggurat, and into the opulent yet perilous halls of a king's court. Now, as the journey draws to a close, let your mind rest in this moment, cradled by the gentle rhythm of history, as we reflect on the world of Babylon and the threads that connect it to your own. Imagine yourself standing once more on the banks of the Euphrates, the river's surface a mirror for the stars, its current a soft whisper that carries the weight of centuries. The city stretches before you, its mud brick walls and towering ziggurats softened by the night, their outlines blending into the horizon. Their days were shaped by the rhythm of the sun and the river, by the weight of labor and the demands of power. They woke each morning to a world that asked everything of them, where survival was a daily task, where the gods were as real as the dust under their feet. Yet, within that struggle, there were moments of connection, a shared laugh in the marketplace, a prayer offered under the stars, a fleeting glimpse of beauty in a garden or a temple's glow. These moments, small as they seem, were the threads that wove their lives into the tapestry of Babylon, a city that stood as a beacon of human endeavor. This is Babylon, a place where humanity first learned to live in great numbers, to write its laws on clay, to build monuments that reached for the divine. It is a world both alien and familiar, its people bound by the same hopes and struggles that echo through time, the need to survive, to find meaning, to leave a mark on the earth. As you stand here, the city feels alive, its heartbeat a quiet pulse beneath the surface, carried in the footsteps of laborers, the prayers of priests, and the ambitions of kings. The lives you've glimpsed tonight, the brickmaker kneading clay, the scribe etching cuneiform, the courtier navigating the palace's intrigues are distant, yet they resonate with a quiet universality. Consider the laborer, whose hands shaped the bricks that built the city's walls, whose sweat mingled with the clay that formed its ziggurats. Then there was Nabonidus, the king who turned from his throne to chase a divine vision, his heart tethered to the crescent moon. The ziggurat at Amenenki, with its terraces reaching toward the heavens, stands as a bridge between myth and reality, its shadow cast across the biblical tale of Babel. Finally, the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II, with its glazed tiles and fragrant gardens, was a world of beauty and danger, where power was both a crown and a chain. Now, as you stand by the Euphrates, the city's lights dimming, let your thoughts turn to the present. As you rest here, in the quiet of your own space, let the weight of Babylon's story settle gently around you. This journey through Babylon has been a long one, a slow unfolding of a world both vast and intimate.